Today we have a Harper's Ferry rifled musket model of 1803 manufactured in 1818. This has a patch box built into the stock, which we can see here. And this originally would have been a flintlock. So as we look at the lock here, we can see where the original flint components were removed and a percussion cap device fitted. And as we tilt this over, you can see where a lot of the flint mechanism from firing that left some pitting and corrosion here on the back of the barrel. Now, obviously, this is a lot older than the Civil War, so we'll get into the connection a little bit later in the video here. It's only a half stock, so this would have been produced for riflemen in the 1800s, 18 teens, when a rifle was still very much a novelty of a weapon. In fact, here we can see some of the original rifling that was in use at the time before the spiral groove rifling was introduced in the 1840s. Now, as we flip the musket over, we can see that there is a cheek piece on this side of the stock for the rifleman to rest his cheek when he's taking aim. We can see the Harper's Ferry proof stamps. Take a few more seconds to look this over before we get into some of the details. So in the 1840s, the US government determined that all new weapons were going to be manufactured to fire via the percussion ignition system. And at that time, they undertook a survey of the inventory of their various arsenals and armories, and graded arms that were in storage and flintlock uh, on a condition of 1 through 4. Uh, Weapons that were graded as first or second or third condition were upgraded to percussion ignition. Weapons that fell at a lower grade, fourth grade, were often surplused out to the private market. So that gives us a little bit of a background here in trying to determine when and who this was converted to fire a percussion cap. And as we can see here, we've got some really good detail on what's called a drum conversion method that was used on this musket. The sources of information for this video come from a book called Harper's Ferry Armory and the New Technology, The Challenge of Change by Merritt Rose Smith, seen here on the left, and an article called The U.S. Flintlock Musket as It is Converted for Use of the Percussion System by Edgar Howell, Jr. from the American Society of Arms Collectors. The book includes a table of production at Harper's Ferry by year of every type of rifle and musket that they manufactured. And so if we look at the year 1818 for flintlock rifles of the model 1803, we can see that 2,700 were manufactured in the year 1818. It's interesting to note that the production of this specific model overall only amounts to about 15 or 16,000 in total. And we mentioned that the four-class grading system earlier. Based on the information in the accompanying article, it becomes pretty apparent that all of these were graded at the fourth class. So being a fourth class arm, that means it would have been surplused out to private buyers rather than undergoing an official upgrade process to percussion. This is further reinforced by the article, which identifies the methods of conversion that were standardized for this process. If we take a look at some of the examples shown here, None of these are the same drum method that this particular musket has. According to the article, it was then a pretty common thing after somebody bought one of these off of the government to have it upgraded to fire a percussion cap. And apparently, the drum method was a very common method used by a lot of Philadelphia gunsmiths. In fact, this method seems to have been so common that a unit of Pennsylvania militia were outfitted with these Model 1803 Harper's Ferry muskets that had been converted using this exact same drum conversion. Now, we have no way of knowing for sure if this particular musket was one of those converted in Philadelphia and then issued and used by militia during the Civil War. But one further note is that it does contain the initials. It looks like GC here at the end of the trigger guard. Based on the book, it doesn't seem to be any record of an inspector at Harper's Ferry with those initials, at least not that is included in the list of inspectors in the book. So perhaps the GC stems from a gunsmith that would have performed this conversion. It could perhaps be the owner's initials as well. We unfortunately don't really have any way to conclusively identify what the GC stands for. One final note about this musket is we can see these series of hash marks on the end of the ramrod. Apparently riflemen use these marks to help verify or double check the load that they were using, depending upon if they were loading a single normal load, a double load, or perhaps some buckshot. The rod would seat to a certain depth. And these hash marks can be used to verify the proper depth that the load should be seated at. That concludes this video about this early Harper's Ferry rifled musket. I want to give a big thanks to the member who had this in his collection and agreed to let it be used for this video, as well as providing the research information that went along with it.